A few words about modes. I've heard people say that modes are variations of the major scale, and while that could be interpreted that way, they are more than that. So, the major scale is as the equivalent of the Ionian scale. So, well, in other words, the major scale is the common name for the Ionian mode. Now, all of these modes share the same key signature. I believe that the major scale has the name major because in a key where the pitches go, all the way, like they go a long distance basically. If you didn't have the limits of an actual instrument, the pitches, at least in theory, will go on forever, both high and low. Now, if your first instrument is anything other than a keyboard instrument, things can get a little tricky to picture because you don't really have it all laid down in front of you. But on a keyboard, it's a lot easier. It's a lot more visual. And even then, it's a bit tricky to figure out at first. But going back to the modes, these are just scales with a different starting note in a particular key. The key signature indicates what the actual notes are, and they're always going to stay the same no matter what mode you're playing in. It's just that the order, to say so, changes. I chose to put Aeolian mode first because of a very specific reason, and I'll try and show it right now. So there is something worth paying attention to, and that is the way keys mirror each other, specifically the layout of the notes in each key will be a perfect mirror image of the layout of the notes in a different key. And every single time those keys sit right across from each other on the circle of fifths. Again, this is not a circle of fifths the way it's normally represented. This is more of a spiral because, strictly speaking, it's not a circle that's closed. It's a spiral that goes on and on. But going back to the keys and how they, their layouts mirror each other, those always sit right across. So in this case, the key of E flat major sits right across from the key of A major. And on the circle of fifths, you can see that A major is on the right and E major is on the left. And also, like I said, its layout is a perfect mirror image. So this is A major and this is E flat major. Now it's a little tricky to see at first, but eventually you can see how it's a perfect reflection. And this is why, so here it's represented in red, the Aeolian mode. And that's why I think the Aeolian mode is quite special. Although its common name is the minor scale and suggests somehow that it's not the more important one or something, I'm not quite sure where this major and minor came from. I have a theory, but in any case, the Aeolian mode is quite important. And more than that, the modes are a very interesting way to play around in your key. So in the key of E flat major, in this case, the starting note was E flat, and that made the E flat major scale. But then when you hold on to that same collection of notes, but start on a different degree of the scale, you then get a different mode. For example, the next one, when you start on F, give you the Dorian mode, or the Dorian scale, the F Dorian scale. You're in the same key, you're just playing a different scale. And so on with the rest of them. And some people might say that the modes are making things too complicated. I think it makes it a lot easier. The moment you realize that they're all parts, each key has these modes, and all of them, regardless of the name, there is a consistency there if you lay it down as such. I spent a lot of time putting this together in a way that makes a little more sense than what's normally explained. But modes, I think they make things a lot easier. You just have to understand that the scales, aka the modes, are always part of a very specific key. So no matter what the name of the scale is, I'm talking about the first letter, the first note, whether it's C Aeolian or G Phrygian, as long as they belong to the same key, or in other words, they're under the same key signature, they're always going to share the same collection of notes, just in a different order. And again, the Aeolian mode, aka the minor scale, I think is the most magical one, because this is just one example, I lost the page, where it mirrors exactly, but in every single key, no matter which one you're in, it's always going to mirror the key that's sitting on the other side of the circle of fifths. The other modes also mirror in each key, but it's always going to be a different mode. For example, in this key of the B flat major, one of these two, not sure which one, is going to mirror on page 8. Is going to mirror one of the other scales, and this in this case is actually, what did we have here? Here we have the Dorian, C Dorian. And in this key we have F sharp Phrygian. So these ones also are perfect mirror images of each other. It's just that they're different modes in each key. If I were to represent the Aeolian mode in each of these different keys, it would be the exact shape, just reversed. Very interesting thing. Not a lot of people are talking about this. And it's only obvious on the piano keyboard because of the layout. On any other instrument, I haven't noticed that on a different instrument. It might also be the case on the guitar. Eventually, I'll figure that one out and see if that's true. But yeah, check out modes, and I would say, look up as much as possible and take everything with a grain of salt, because different explanations will give you different perspectives. The easiest one, I think, it is where you see modes as part of a key. So it's key would be the bigger circle, and within that key you have scales of any kind. And these are the 7 basic scales that you can build from in each key. Obviously, you can build scales however you you can build scales however you want in any key. I just sort of made up. It might actually have a name, but I'll try again. It might actually have a name, but I'm saying I just made this up without any particular rules. These follow certain rules to do with physics and acoustics and whatever. But yeah, generally speaking, you can play any scales you want. But once again, check out modes. Very cool stuff for anybody, beginners or not.